Hello. Today I want to talk about developing our art style, developing art that feels unique, personal and special to us. And I just thought I'd share some insight and some thoughts from my 20 years of trying to develop my art style. That brings me to my first point. Our art style is not a arrival point. It is just a snapshot in time. Our style develops as our knowledge increases. So there is part of our art style that is innate to us. It's a unique kind of fingerprint. It's the handwriting of our art. And there is also a part of our art style which develops through practice, through knowledge, through experience. I've been making art for 20 years now and I still haven't entirely nailed down my style. It is an ever-evolving thing that follows our curiosity. It's a reflection of what we're interested in and what we're fascinated by. Art style has got several different kind of component parts, and these component parts mix together and meld together to make art that has got our hand and our heart and our head embedded within it. So our art style consists of these different elements. Firstly, what is our art? Is it expressive landscapes? Is it geometric abstracts? So there's a sort of, what is the theme? What is the topic of what we are creating? And then there's the why we're creating it. Why do we create what we create? Why do we do what we do? And for me, I think I'm still discovering this, and I think I'll always still be discovering it. It's not a really straightforward, simple answer about why we create what we create. We bring our experiences, our preferences, our sensibilities, our life to our art. And then a really important aspect of our art style is how we make our art, what materials we use, how we combine our materials, the processes and the approaches. And that will of course determine how our art looks. So there's what we make, why we make it, how we make it, and then how it looks. That could be the marks, the colours, the lines, the feeling that we have in our artwork. So how do we go about developing, defining our art style? I think it can be really useful just to answer those questions. What is my art about? Why do I make it? How do I make it? And what in it do I love? What visual aspects, what visual clues? What are the things in my art that are exciting and interesting to me? And getting very, very particular about that. I think a lot of developing our art style is paying attention. This sketchbook is from 9 years ago. I can see that some of the things that I was interested in this sketchbook, I'm still really interested in. Collections of objects, feathers and ink splodges. I think it's extremely useful to look at our art in combination and see what themes and through lines and ideas percolate through what we make. What are we drawn to? Are there any things that keep appearing? Motifs, subject matters, materials. And that's why I think sketchbooks are so interesting, because just a really easy way to look back. Lots of drawing, lots of colour, sticking things in. All the decorative marks and lines are something that I still do. And my first love was really watercolour and combining watercolour with drawn details, iridescent gold paint. There are so many things from this older sketchbook which are still a fascination to me now. And obviously our art style and our skills develop, our knowledge grows, our experience grows, and then we have more to pull on in terms of knowing what we like. I always find looking back at old sketchbooks just a really helpful reminder. I'm sort of meeting myself back then. They're a season of my life, a season of my creative fascinations, and I just think it's really interesting to see what persists and what carries on in my artwork today. Loving the layers and the combinations of materials. You know, the colour palettes of blue and pink seems to be really common. This sort of colour palette is still one that I use today. I think it's so important to ask ourselves what we love in our own artwork and to be really granular. You know, I love it when there is bold marks coupled with intense detail. You know, I love it when there is a painterly watercolour effect mixed with gestural lines. You know, I love it when there are layers of interest and layers of material. And so really getting clear about what we like in our own art and what we like in other people's art is such a useful exercise. It's a really good discipline to ask yourself, what do I love here? Why am I drawn to this? What is it in this painting that is calling to me, that is really making me feel something? Part of our art style is that kind of innate portion that I think is like our handwriting. It's the sort of imprint of us on our art. And part of it is knowledge and experience, trying lots of different things, trying lots of different ways to make art, exploring different materials, different processes. And I just think that is why a sketchbook is so valuable. You know, I look back at my sketchbooks and it's like I'm trying on lots of different approaches. I'm trying to figure out who I am as an artist, what is exciting me through doing it. You know, often a sketchbook can have 100 pages, and that's 100 opportunities to learn more about yourself as an artist, to tune into some of the nuances and the sensibilities and the aesthetic kind of preferences of your own art. I think our art style is always evolving and moving and changing. There's that part that is innate and that there'll be a through line through our artwork, but there'll always be a portion of it that is kind of moving. This sketchbook is from 2018 and it's a bit scrappy. Lots of pages left undone. But there's some things I really like in it. I like this page a lot. This was black Indian ink with some white pen drawn over the top. Some vases and vessels, sorts of things. Ink, watercolour, crayon, acrylic paint. I'm really enjoying this sort of watercolour splashes with the scribbles. And these little samples were made using crayon and watercolour over the top. So the oil crayon resists the watercolour, so it creates all these lovely little blobs and splodges. So 2018, and I can see that I'm really wanting to explore different materials in combination, seeing what they do, seeing how they work. So looking back through my sketchbooks has reminded me how much I love using watercolour. So I think I might just have a bit of a play in my sketchbook with watercolour and pencil and marks and see what happens.
I'm hushing the dog on the chain. I'm running up stones on the edge of the bank. Rally the troops for another refrain. I sing this softly to myself. I sing this softly to myself. I'm buried beneath the sand. There's no way to speak or reach out my hand. Watching the paper slowly unfold. Bracing for news that I can't bear to hold. While I'm singing this song to myself. I sing this softly to myself. Tore up my jeans on the fence.
Part of the artistic journey is finding the processes and the approaches and the methods and the materials which deliver the outcome and the aesthetic that we find beautiful or moving, or whatever it is that we want our art to be, we have to find the process and the approach and the materials that allow that to come out on the page or the canvas. So there we go, a few thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. It's always a pleasure to be with you and to share ideas with you, and I really appreciate all your kind and generous and thoughtful feedback.